Hey there, Gamecock fans. Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into Carolina football, the SEC, everything that goes with it. We're bringing you weekly doses of heartbreak, hilarity, and just enough insight to keep you coming back for more. I'm your host, Mike Ritchie, class of '06. With me are my co-hosts, Sam Niedermeyer, class of '06 as well, and John Buster Clarkson, class of '02. Look, Gamecock fans, take a minute. Enjoy this one. I know I am. What a win. Huge win. I know Buster and Sam are with me, right, fellas?
God, dude, my pharmaceutical company that makes my blood pressure medicine just made a lot of money this past weekend. But what makes me feel even better is somebody on this podcast has to take a warm gin shot. Who could that be? Oh, that's right. Sam, who predicted that. Was it you, Mike? No, it was Sam. Yes.
No.
It was definitely Sam because that guy predicted that Clemson was going to win the game and was proven very wrong. So, Sam, cheers to you, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, it almost came to fruition. It almost came to fruition with a late score by Clemson to win by 4, right? They almost scored a touchdown, but I'm a man of my word. So, Buster, Mike, I have been heating up some gin. I got some Hendrix gin here, and I've been heating it up. Whew, this is gonna be rough, but hey, it's all for the Gamecocks, right?
There you go, baby.
Well, there it goes. Okay. All right. Well, very good start to the program. We've got a great one this week, fans. Lots going on still. Obviously, we're diving into that big win versus Ugly Orange. We're gonna gush even more about our favorite QB and rising star, magician LaNorris Sellers and his performance in that game. We'll crunch some numbers on what's going on with the college football playoff and sort of what's being said. Recap some upsets across the country. Obviously, some big ones last week affecting title games this weekend and other spots in the playoff. We'll get into we'll dip our toes in this portal, see what the Gamecocks are doing there, losses, wins, who's coming in. A tiny bit of signing. That'll happen obviously early next year, signing day. Wrapping up, we'll kind of just recap the season a little bit. Preview this SEC title game. Obviously, that's a big one still to watch. And talk a little bit college playoff and maybe bowl chances for the Cocks. So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on social media so you get all the new episodes and content. We're coming with more as we go here, getting better, getting stronger every week, just like the Cocks. So settle in and let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni
Game Cox.
Carolina fans, we got to talk about this game, this win over Clemson. I mean, hyped, right? We hyped it. We talked about it. We talked about the players that had to show up, and LaNorris Sellers did his thing again. For me, some of the biggest wins and talked about things have always been ranked teams. The first game I ever took my wife to was #1 Alabama. We know how that went. That was a great one. But for me, this felt like the end of the season, doing it right, growing, building with these players. I mean, obviously there's things that we talked about already, but the way this game sets up for LaNorris, how big is this for him, you guys? Is this his legacy, or is this just the start?
This is the start of a legacy. We can't say legacy in the first year. I mean, we need a little bit more of a full body of work, but it's the start of a legacy because this was the game where things weren't working to the degree that we saw in previous games, and we were down going late into the fourth quarter, and it was Sellers that put the team on his back, made it happen. You got to remember that last touchdown play was a third and long. I think it was a 3rd and 16. We were at a 3rd and 11, got a false start. We're stuck at 3rd and 16.
Those mistakes, I know.
So, if you want to say this is legacy defining, him making that play on a 3rd and long with a minute left in the fourth quarter to take out your rival on the road, that is how you write chapter 1 of your legacy book.
Agreed. I mean, it felt like he willed that thing into the end zone. You know, I mean, in my mind, I don't want to put him there yet, but you guys saw what Josh Allen did the other night in the snow. I mean, it's a similar type of script to just take the game, take everything on your shoulders, and just will it into submission, and to just know that you're going in the end zone there and believe it so wholeheartedly that you make it happen. I mean, that's a leader of men. That's someone everyone can get behind, right? So really flowers to him, you know?
I mean, it's so fun to watch him. We're so lucky to watch this guy play, like as a redshirt freshman, just with the poise that he has. Throws an interception early, shakes it right off, right? Comes back, credit Cade Klubnik. He came down, he had a couple touchdown scores. That first touchdown score he had, and then there's a response right back from Sellers and company. You're right, Buster. It was 3rd and 16 because I remember, because it was 16 number 16 that he had right there.
I was getting the math right.
You make comparisons. You make comparisons to Josh Allen. I mean, there's so many guys you compare him to. I think about what are some of the best times that we've ever seen Carolina play in our lifetimes, and that was those Connor Shaw years when they were winning 10 games a year, right? And Connor Shaw would do the same thing. I remember that Missouri game at Missouri on the road when Missouri just came into the SEC that first year. He came back and willed them to like 17 points in the fourth quarter. He's got that kind of moxie. He's got that kind of poise. He's got that kind of determination, and he's a lot more physically gifted than Connor Shaw. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see him for the next 3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and, dude, Sam, you make up a good point. Like when you talk about Connor Shaw at Missouri, legacy defining moment that, coming back in the fourth quarter and then into overtime. What about, Mike, you mentioned it, the Alabama game where we took out number 1 Alabama. Career legacy defining moment. Alshon Jeffrey shows out in that game and shows why he was one of the best wide receivers to ever come to Carolina. The one-handed catch down the sideline with the guy hanging all over him. And from that point on, Alshon was wide receiver 1 for that season and the next couple seasons, and then into the NFL.
Yeah. Buster, you called him Houdini last week. He is Houdini. The players rocket. They must have heard something because they kept calling him the Magic, the comeback in the post-game press conference there. And I kind of like maybe the Heisman in the future. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
He's a full-blown escape artist, guys. I mean, he gets out of jams that he has no business getting out of. And it does look like strength. When I see Lamar Jackson do it, it's with crazy moves and he's got this thin frame and he's wiry. That's not our guy. Our guy's a freight train coming through. I mean, his frame, he's like Von Miller in a quarterback, basically, his size and strength is just so evident. His balance, his poise in the pocket, once I see him start throwing the ball more, I could give him a 10 out of 10. That's my only clip. And in football, I feel like you always got to get better. I don't want an undefeated season. I feel like when you lose a game, you learn a lot. You coach to that. If you never lose, how do you coach a team that never loses, right? But with this guy, I think he gets a little more downfield passing in there, controls that cannon, like you said, Max, gets some Buster, gets some control over that cannon to really be able to drop a dime in the bucket, and he's a 10 out of 10.
I'm going to pose a question to you guys, right? So we were saying, Buster, you had said something, and you were talking pregame about how he squats 600 pounds. I mean, that's unreal.
600 pounds.
Feels like more than Saquon.
Let me ask you guys a question. Right now, is he the best quarterback in this season, right? Or right now, whatever you want to say it, maybe looking towards next year. Is he the best quarterback in the SEC? How does he rank in the nation? Buster, what do you think?
I think he's the best quarterback in the SEC. And yes, people are going to argue that when they look at statistics, because they can look at passing yards from like your Jackson Darts, Nico up at Tennessee, Quinn Ewers down in Texas.
Milrow a little bit?
Diego from Vanderbilt.
Oh, yeah, Diego.
Yeah. So those it's not about the stats. This should be about the eyeball test. If you look at that last drive that LaNorris did, that last touchdown at 3rd and 16, when he saw what he was given with the pocket collapsing around him, and he saw the opening in the middle, he took off. The ability to be explosive on that takeoff, the ability to evade defenders. And I wish I could bring up the clip, but at the point where he crosses the first down line, he cuts to the left and almost runs horizontal. People are like, what are you doing? What he saw was a defender off balance on his back feet trying to get in position to make the tackle. He realized in that split second that guy was at a vulnerability, so he took the ball to him, knowing he could take him out of the play. And as soon as the guy came off balance, and as soon as his footwork was in a bad spot, he took the cut straight up into the end zone, perfectly fine. That right there tells me that you have the size, the speed, the strength, the 600-pound squat strength, and now you have the IQ that it takes to be the best quarterback in the SEC. There are some stats out there, but
with room for improvement, right? Throwing the ball downfield.
Yeah. Funny story about that play. So I was actually, I actually saw Wicked after the game. So I was on the way to go see Wicked with my girl. Wicked, by the way, amazing movie. Great. Just so good.
It's wicked good.
Wicked good. Wicked good. All right. Wicked good. So I'm coming.
We're topical on this show. We can talk about everything that's popping.
We're kind of on a hurry. I'm going with my girl to go see it, right? And I'm watching highlights, and she's like, "You just saw the game. Why are you watching highlights?" You have to go on Twitter and you have to see what everyone's saying, and everyone's saying,
"Yeah, what are they talking about?
Legacy drive loading here for Sellers. Let's go." Things like that. And she watched that clip, Buster, and she was mesmerized too. I've been getting her into South Carolina a little bit these last few 6 weeks or so.
Understandable.
She was like, "Wow, how old is he again?" I was like, 19. That's right. He's 19 years old. Yeah, that's unreal. Amazing. Unreal on that run.
Well, if you want to say legacy defining, if you have a guy that makes the non-footballs turn their heads and do a double take, my wife, same thing. Not a football person. Not at all. It absolutely hates me watching football because I'm too distracted, I'm too loud, and I'm too obnoxious. But you know what? I showed her clips from the Missouri game. I showed her the clips from the Clemson game. And just like you, she was like, "Oh, God, who is that? He's really good."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty
and
good.
I think it's that much more just bursting on the scene, right? It's not like, and we've said this before, it's not like coming in this year, he was projected for this and that, number one overall, this and that. It's none of that, right? And it's not like he was unknown either. I mean, I remember asking both of you guys last year, "Guys, what are we doing when Rattler's gone?" And both of you said the cupboard is full. Even the guy after Sellers can do some stuff. And we have seen him do some stuff too. So, like, the future's real bright. I mean, obviously the portal is there, and we'll get to that. But just to kind of one last thing we had here, I just want to touch on because I didn't know a lot about Oscar Attaway, and I thought his contributions in the running game, the 1-2 punch of him and Rocket, really helped things out here. We talked about that as a bit of a weakness for Clemson. It was. And I almost found myself a little disappointed because I'm looking up Attaway because I didn't know him that well, to be honest. And I'm like, oh, he's an upperclassman. I believe he's a junior or a senior. And I was like, oh man, so that feels like an area, we'll put a pin in that because we'll talk about portal and recruiting. That does feel like an area we gotta fill the cupboard and bring those guys up for next year. So definitely, can put some more pieces around him, but that starts to feel like going to be easy. Everybody's going to want to play with this guy, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're a running back or a receiver and you got a guy like that, not only do you want to play for him, run through a brick wall for him, but the opportunities that you have to be a playmaker because he can make plays for you. He can set you up with a good running game. He can set you up with a beautiful pass as you're going across the middle. You're running a go route. You're a top wide receiver. You want someone to drop it in the bucket for you. LaNorris is your guy. Yeah. Or sorry, Heisman is your guy.
And when I'm watching too, don't get me wrong, there were some mistakes, right? I saw Nick Harbor drop a good one, and I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of wide receivers in other schools across the country who are thinking about going somewhere, and they could catch that ball, and they'll want to catch that ball, and they can play these games in the SEC. We won't know our schedule, but whatever our schedule is going to be, there's going to be ranked teams there, and there's going to be college football playoff implications, much like there are now. Because you gotta think the sky's the limit. I'm almost more excited for next year than I am this year. And that's what makes it great. So, guys, like we spent a lot of time on LaNorris. We could do this all day. Are we good here? Are we moving on to the defense now?
Shout out. Shout out to LaNorris.
I just love him so much.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, we'll go on the defense in a second, but he is without a doubt our greatest asset on the recruiting field, on the transfer portal. Pretty much everything as a brand right now, and it's so exciting to see. He's already getting Heisman considered. Like he's on the.
He's not a secret anymore.
He's not a secret anymore. He's not a secret. He's on the national spotlight. He is on the Vegas odds to win the Heisman. He's like a 10,000 or some plus 10,000 or something like that. But hey, that is putting us on the map. Great job, LaNorris. We love you, buddy. We love you.
It's amazing, really, what that can do at any level, what a quarterback can do for the program. So, moving over to the other side, defensively, I saw a lot of great things. We talked about early throwing that pick, not having to pay the price because defense stands them up, forcing Clemson to play a certain way. And Buster, you had some more notes there on the way Clemson came into the game.
Yeah, shout out to Demetrius's interception. Shout out to TJ Sanders recovering the fumble. I know taters will complain that Maffa was down, but they don't really know much up there. So, they're wrong. The rest were right. For once, the rest were right on that call. But no, Clemson actually did come in with a good game plan to, for the best way to put it, neutralize what we do best on defense. Now, granted, I am a Clemson hater.
You're definitely biased.
Everywhere. Yeah, no, I'm totally biased. I don't even wear orange is not allowed in my house. I very rarely shop at Home Depot because their color is orange, so it kind of upsets me. But you have to, from an objective standpoint, look at what Clemson did offensively in their game plan. They knew that we have an elite pass rush. They knew that we have ball-hawking linebackers. They knew that we have very good coverage on the back end of the secondary. Shout out Nick Imamori, O'Donnell Fortune, Vakari Swain. Those guys played great. Jalen Kilgore, Judge Collier. Dabo decided that their game plan was going to be quick passes. They were going to not allow the pass rush to get to Cade. And in the first, honestly, 3 quarters, it looked like they had mastered the game plan to neutralize the defense. We couldn't get into the backfield. We got 1 sack, and that was Bam Martin Scott on a linebacker delayed blitz coming up the middle where he was unblocked. Outside of that, Dylan and Kyle Kennard were kept mostly quiet for much of the game, and that's what Clemson did well. Eventually, though, you did see on that last interception, Demetrius' nice interception, when Clemson was marching down the field on their last drive. Yeah. That interception, I think, was just as much Demetrius making a great play. But if you look at right after the snap, Cade had to move to his right and throw the ball under duress, which made an inaccurate throw, which caused an interception. Why did he do that? Dylan Stewart beat his man and was coming in on him.
Chasing him down.
And it kind of reminded me, I rewatched the game, and I noticed that there was several times where when we were able to take advantage, so when we got our game-winning drive and touchdown, prior to that, Clemson got forced to punt the ball. And the reason why is we were putting just enough pressure on Cade to where we were disrupting his rhythm and his throws to where they got to a fourth down. We did not allow them. I don't know if this was Clayton White, our DC, his purpose from the start, but Maffa did. I think he only had 69 yards on 12.
Yeah, he was not
12 or 14 rush. Yeah, so I don't know if that was the game plan, but we did neutralize their running game. So it was basically we neutralized their running game, forced them to throw. Kay did throw some great balls in the first half, especially threw some great balls in good coverage. And they have outstanding receivers that were able to make the catch. They move the ball that way. So shout out to Clemson. Cade is not as good as LaNorris, but he did play well. Mike, I honestly, I think the most impressive thing from Clemson is their wide receiver. So
yeah, I would agree. I was impressed by Bryant Westco Jr. and he's a freshman, so we will see more of him. Coach will coach to that, what he saw in that game and seeing tape, and that kid will grow and be back next year. So we'll watch out for him. He was getting very good near the end of the game on the sideline, tapping those toes, going out of bounds, doing what you got to do to keep a drive going near the end of the game, keeping hope alive. I guess my only other note was that I did think, while we held their running game in check, I did see Jay Haynes making some nice runs. He's also a freshman, so Clemson will return somewhat of a core of sophomores that are coming back that now know us, have played us, have lost to us. You got to think this win, while it did not affect Clemson as much as it affected us, they will remember this, and they will be back next year remembering that we beat them. much like we have remembered when they have beat us, and you use that as motivation, not only within the locker room, but from coach and from us, right? I mean, we've beat Clemson, so next year, are we as motivated? Well, we better get up because they're going to be. And they got some young guys who just lost a game that they thought they should have won, and they're not going to let that go. You know, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
To talk about you do have to credit the game plan, right? They negated Dylan Stewart and Kennard pretty well, I'd say. But we did mention last week, when Cade Klubnik throws over 30 times in a game, his rating goes down. He gets less efficient. He can come up with the big explosive plays, and Wesco's is an absolute stud, by the way. You're right about that.
Yeah.
He can come up with those actual plays.
I want to watch him. Yeah.
They come up with those actual plays, but he did end up throwing the ball over 30 times. So that does tell me that when Clemson wants to run the ball, and they want to run the ball, and they want to run it, and they want to throw quickly, but they don't want to throw a lot. They start throwing a lot, they're out of rhythm. They're out of their game plan. So you're excellent points buster.
Both game plans really effective, but it does feel like the dominoes fall for South Carolina. You stop that run game, you force Cade over 30 throws, right away things will get shaky.
And maybe this was part of the game plan, and I've seen it now enough of Shane Beamer and the defenses over the last 3 or 4 seasons that they have very much a bend, don't break type of defense. That's okay. They're going to get their yards. Let their guys get their yards.
Let them come between the 20s. I don't care.
You get to the red zone. That's our area. And you saw in the first half, I think it was the first drive where Clemson's driving down. They go for it on 4th and 1, and we stop them. I think it was Kilgore with a big stop in the back. That set the tone
That place went quiet.
You're not going to do that now. Yeah, I mean, that was just absolutely beautiful. So, kudos to Beamer and staff there for orchestrating a wonderful game plan, knowing exactly how they were going to negate that pass rush.
Right. Yeah. And I'll just say it again. I mean, Sellers, just his demeanor overall, he's so cool. I used to, there's a couple guys in the NFL, right? Like Baker Mayfield, or even lately Jameis Winston. They'll go out and they'll bomb it, and every now and then they'll throw a pick, and they'll come right back out. They'll totally forget it and go right back into it. That's
what you got to do.
To me, that's like some Brett Favre. Yeah, that's some Brett Favre stuff. Like, I got to go out, I got to make this throw, and I might not, and it might end in an interception, but if I can make the throw, then it's on. I've been seeing a little bit of that with Daniels in Washington,
Yeah, no, LaNorris is to me, and this is something that, going forward, going into next season, and anytime we're on the TV, take a close look at the broadcast. So, listeners, everybody, take a look at the broadcast. What I noticed was on the final drive in the Missouri game, when I rewatched that game, and then even in this Clemson game, I rewatched it honestly several times. Weirdo, but there is and thank God that the broadcasts have improved immensely in their ability to have 4K cameras in all parts of the stadium.
We see everything.
The final touchdown run by LaNorris, there is a close-up of him from, an end zone camera. The look in his eyes, it shows nothing but calm and poise. And that's what we get out of LaNorris. Every single time when the game is on his shoulders, when it comes down to dropping your nuts, as they say, he's got the ability to stay calm, cool, and collective. And the fourth C in that will be confident, because when I saw that brief shot from the camera, the level of confidence in his eyes of saying, hey, this is what I got to do. This is what's been given to me. Let's go make it happen. That bleeds to the rest of the team. That bleeds through the TV to all of us in Gamecock Nation. And we got that. And so, pay attention. Next time you watch LaNorris on TV. Do you think that starts
with Beamer? I mean, I feel like I'm hearing that from you when you say that, but do you feel like Beamer gets him that confidence and then he's ready? Or do you think he already has it?
Well, I mean, think about this. I think he's always had it. He comes from a great family. Shout out Florence, South Carolina. He comes from a great school over there. He comes from a great family. But, I mean, he's got born to be ready moxie. But I also believe that Shane, the type of coach he is, he's a culture coach. He's a player's coach. What he's been able to instill in LaNorris it's almost like it's a power-up. So LaNorris has already had the moxie to be as great as he is. And I think Shane just gave him the power-up to take that moxie from a 10 to a volume 11 shout out Spinal Tap, Volume 11. So I think Shane is the type of coach that if you have a superpower, Shane's going to teach you how to use it and how to use it properly and how to show it off and bring it to the next level.
All right, so I think if we're going superhero and Marvel, I think we're almost ready to put this one away. I'll believe it for now, and I love the Spinal Tap reference. The drummer from Def Leppard only has one arm.
Yep.
But let's start to think about putting this one away and just put a button on it, just kind of highlighting some of these numbers here with this significance to our team and the program in general. This win marks Carolina's 6th straight victory and 4th over a ranked opponent. That's kind of insane when you think about what our schedule looked like and where we were. And then Sam, you had some more about the legacy of our coach here.
Couple coaching notes here. Shane Beamer passes the old ball coach for most wins first 4 years. Congratulations, Coach Beamer. Oh, Spurrier actually sent him a nice little voicemail. Shane said after the game, said about Beamer doing a great job. Might be the biggest game in the history of South Carolina. And as you all know, Beamer did coach under the old ball coach for a season here. So great job, Shane Beamer. Also of note too, and this is kind of concerning. I'm hearing a lot of chatter from at least from Clemson Twitter, right? Or Clemson X, excuse me, and on the forums there. If you take away Dabo Swinney actually absolutely destroying Will Muschamp for 4 straight years, Dabo's got a losing record against South Carolina now. You know,
he's just going to take away 4 years in the middle.
I mean, listen, it's worth noting, right? Like, because we all know what Will Muschamp was, right? We're not going to turn this into a hate show, but we all know what he was. But now you got, you kind of have some of the moxie that Steve Spurrier had when you had Beamer on the staff, and now you got Beamer running the culture the way he is. Obviously, he's a great special teams coach, great defensive coach, but like you said, Buster, good players coach that he lets players play within their own individuality within that collective. I mean, that's not. The fact that Dabo Swinney does not have a winning record in his career, taking him out the Will Muschamp win, so obviously you have to go another 2 or 3 years to actually get
rid of that.
It's getting people worried. It's getting people worried, and Dabo's going to have to start spending some money.
Yeah, no, I got that. I mean, in-state things are flipping, right? So that is concerning, right? I mean, if you're Texas, you got to worry about Texas A&M, TCU, these other guys. In our state, this is what you got to worry about, and yeah, it's concerning. Not only losing the game, but a tide maybe that could it be next year? Could it be the year after that? Could it be every year we have this quarterback for now until we show other players that can emerge that have a similar talent and ability level? Just on some of that. No, I mean I think we covered that actually. I think we'll move a bit unless you had one more thing there.
No, it's kind of to Sam's point. I think it was Dabo was 9-7 against the Gamecocks in this little stretch here, and those 9 wins that he's had against us, a very large margin. 6 of them were, or 5 was it 5 or 6 that are under Muschamp. And again, we don't count Muschamp in here. Like everybody's allowed to make a mistake. I've made many mistakes in my life. Our mistake was having Muschamp here. So you think about it. I guess between the Spurrier years and the Shane years, Spurrier tree, Shane's
coaching tree,
coaching tree. So we have Dabo's number. Muschamp didn't, and that's why he's not here anymore. And that's why he got demoted at Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to stay positive on all that and just say without Muschamp, we don't get here. We don't get Beamer, all paths.
Yeah, that's a good point because we have Muschamp. We now have Beamer, and I know that's our dude. That's our guy. So you know what? We'll take that with a grain of salt.
But I do think it's an interesting discussion just because it kind of feels like if you really want to throw Muschamp under, for those years he had a pass and Dabo just got those wins and they're a little fluffy. Okay, it ain't that way anymore. And in fact, it's all flipping the other way. Well, that you can thank the fan base for that too. We got sick of it. We had enough. We see what you're doing now. We approve, and we're here en masse watching the game 5, 6, 7 times. So
dude, I'm all about
shout out. Bringing more money. It's bringing more money in too.
Shout out to Muschamp for being a bad coach. It always ends up in a positive way.
To you, Will. Thanks, Will.
So, we want to catch up on some of the rest of the week too. So we have some of those upsets from around the country. We got a few hot takes there. I'll start with Georgia over Georgia Tech. I caught the fourth quarter into the eighth overtime, and I was thrilled, and my wife was thrilled, and I'm watching this game. And look, Carolina game was awesome. We're going to remember this game for a long time. A lot of people will. But that Georgia Tech just felt like, wow, this is history. How often do you go to that many OTs, that even matched? And I'm pretty sure I said that Georgia Tech could do that. So I was feeling pretty good about all of that.
Hey, you did. You did say watch out for this game. To your point, Mike. Good job there.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that Miami Georgia Tech game. I've seen Georgia Tech do it over the years. They come up for Georgia. They circle that game every year, anytime that's on the schedule. And I'm glad it is still. Much like our ACC matchup, Georgia gets their own ACC matchup. Those ACC teams, they like to come in and play that SEC game. They know that's their chance. And look at Georgia. I mean, look at Georgia Tech there. Even though they don't win that game, they go to the eighth overtime to do that. You don't think that helps them for recruiting? You don't think that program has turned around when you see that type of play, that type of commitment into an eighth overtime? And I'll tell you what, how many red zone plays do you have to go into 8 overtimes? I just started thinking, wow, they're just going to run the same play. You know, like, how do you coach these kids for 8 overtimes? But it was thrilling. It was electric. It was mayhem. It was great. You know.
Another big one too.
What were the games that were grabbing you guys? Sam, you had one, right?
Yeah, man. Ohio State, Michigan, right? Like, I mean, there's a few we got in here, and to your point, Mike, like, you get these rivalry games, you could throw the records out the window, right? With the exception of, I guess maybe Mississippi State and Ole Miss, but like you can throw those records out the window, especially one that's in-state rivalries or actually even what they call the big game up in Big Ten country, Michigan versus Ohio State. I mean, Michigan, kudos to them. They haven't had a good year. They actually won the game and then fired their offensive coordinator, which I was a little surprised about, but I kind of get it. But they just punched Ohio State in the mouth on their own field and did not look back. That defense really, you could tell Harbaugh's got his stamp all over that team because they are bullies. They make no mistake about it. Michigan is a bully team, and Ohio State, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why everyone thinks that they're this great team, and we'll talk about this in a second, but I don't get it. But so Michigan really blew me away. Good job, Michigan there. Winning the game in Ohio State.
Yeah, plus it's not like they didn't say it on every single pregame coming in. Ryan Day has got to win this game. He cannot win this game. And to
1-4 against Michigan.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And credit to the coach, like you said. I remember watching him. Remember last year when Harbaugh was out with the suspension and he coached that game and he was in tears at the end of the game. I'm a fan of that coach. He's doing good things.
Yeah, Sharon Moore. I like Sharon Moore.
He's got those boys in the right direction.
I don't always love that you're going to coach to one game in a year, but that's the way college works. Those games are big games. If you're Michigan and you win that game, maybe you save your job. Maybe if you're OC, you don't, because look, there wasn't a lot of offense in that game. I feel like Michigan defense did a lot more work than offense did. But and I think you had mentioned this, Sam, when we were prepping that maybe they had that plan. They were going to fire the OC a long time ago. They just waited till the end of the year.
Yeah,
and win against Ohio State, not going to save him. But yeah, I mean, for me, it worked backwards, right? I've watched NFL since I was a kid, and then I really got into college football when we were in school, and obviously still into it a lot. But I equate those games with division games. Sam, when I see your Steelers play those Ravens, I don't care when it is. I don't care where it is. I don't care any record. That game is going to be awesome. And almost any division game, give me Niners, Seahawks, give me Dallas, Philly. A lot of those games, you see that team twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. You know them very, very well. They trade players. Right? Jerry Jeudy on Cleveland going for 300 yards or whatever against his old team because he hates them. You need that motivation sometimes, and then you use it on the field. I get it.
Well, what do you think about Ryan Day's legacy? Like
I don't follow Ohio State that close, but I get what you're getting at. Like, where do
the thing is like he's been a great coach, and Ohio State's been dominant outside of the Michigan game. Ohio State against the rest of the Big Ten, Ryan Day was like 47-1 or something like that. With Michigan, he's 1-4. And the thing is that's the most important game. Between those two teams, they could give 2 shits about the rest of their schedule. It's always about that game. Like, if he was 47-1 against the rest of Ohio State's schedule, outstanding. But 1-4 against Michigan, is that considered hot seat material for Ryan Day?
I know one thing. I know Shane Beamer has more top 25 wins than Ryan Day does since 2020, and that's a fact. He's got, I think, was it 6-3 or 6-4, something like that. So, listen, if I'm a booster at Ohio State and I just gave this team $8, $10, $12 million just to beat Michigan, right? We already know you're going to beat it. We already know you're going to beat those Northwesterns. Probably going to beat Penn State, right? You're probably going to beat the Purdue's. We know that. That's fine. Like we have that. You're in here. You got to beat Michigan. Now you're 1-4 against Michigan. That is not a good, including 4 straight, right? So they won the first game. They won the first game in 2019, excuse me. And now they've lost 4 straight. I mean, if I'm Ryan, so number one, I do not like, I don't dislike Ryan Day, right? It's not nothing like that, nothing personal here, but I would not want that job at all. And he's making so much money. I almost kind of feel bad for him just because of the amount of scrutiny and pressure he's got. Yeah. And I got to tell you something. If he doesn't beat Michigan next year, I think, well, if they don't win the national championship, they don't beat Michigan next year, I think he's gone.
Oh, yeah. No, if we're going to go on a scale, he's not at the Kelvin level yet. We're not going to put it that hot, but I'm going to go with 42 degrees Celsius. So fairly warm. He's definitely a step above the traditional Fahrenheit scale, but yeah, we're going to go Celsius.
Are we talking summer weather in Columbus in August, or are we talking the Bayou
shoulder season?
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about the armpit of Columbia, South Carolina, down by the river, August 1st.
Ooh,
yeah, that kind of weather.
That is sweaty. Yeah.
About Ryan Day and his hot pants and whatever. I get it. He's got to beat Michigan, and they're sore over there. But let's not write them off yet. You know, they're getting in there. And speaking of which, with these rankings, you know, Syracuse over Miami is probably the last one that really kind of throws the ACC, right? And kind of, we alluded to it earlier, that it kind of made our game against Clemson kind of not matter as much for them. I mean, again, rivalry game, everything matters, but they're in this ACC championship, right?
You go and beat your rival, and yet they still have a chance to get into the playoffs because Miami decided to not be the darlings of the ACC.
Up in the dome, up in Syracuse, yeah.
Syracuse, you know, low key good team. Low key.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. I mean,
team.
look,
I think they're ranked 22nd or something now.
Yeah, when Miami has lost, they've lost to good teams. I mean, Georgia Tech beats Miami, comes back, you know, almost beats Georgia. Syracuse gears up for this game at home in the dome, and they do their thing. You know, ACC is battling. But what does this do exactly, guys? Like, what does that, along with these upsets, do to the rankings for you guys? And where do we agree or disagree?
Well, I mean, the rankings came out, you know, they came out, and unfortunately for Miami, it dropped them out. They said that, you know, that loss was a bad loss, which I don't get, because it can be difficult to play up there in Syracuse, right? Like, they've been waiting for a team. The fans up there are pretty passionate about their sports, right? Like, they're not like on national stage and not SEC crowds, but it gets loud in that Carrier Dome there, right? Or whatever it's called now. I remember.
Yeah.
Dome, right? Look, Miami's out. That's what it comes down to. They finished 12th in the college playoff ranking that was released yesterday. They had their chance. You know, Darius Butler, who does a great podcast that he does, former Miami Hurricane, basically said, "Listen, we can go one way or another. Like, we can just kind of feel sorry for ourselves. But it comes down to it, we didn't win the games we needed to win. They've lost 2 of 3 as well. Like, that hurts. Like, when you do that at the end of the season." I mean, people notice and they say, well, who is this team? It's just a shame because Cam Ward's a Heisman candidate. Miami has the highest scoring offense in all of the nation. Would have been really cool to see them go and maybe host the game, obviously, but seeing the U back. But I think they're going to be okay for as far as a program wise. I think they're on the right track. They're starting to restore towards that success, but that's it. They're out. They're done.
Yeah. Yep. It's a shame. I got one of my good buddies, shout out my buddy Trevor Martin. He went to UM. He's a huge Miami fan. We might even get some clips together at some point because there are clips of him at games at certain times, like almost Forrest Gump style. He's a huge Miami fan. He actually sort of followed them last year over a bunch of games, and I know he's disappointed. But like you said, there's brightness there in Miami. Cam Ward is a real talent. And they'll feels like they'll be able to get it together, and next year they should be right back in it. So But what about the rest of these rankings, guys? What is there? Is there a path for us? Is there, with this Clemson SMU matchup, does that weigh in?
Yeah, Buster, I'm looking at the ACC championship game. What do you think?
I wish I could say yes, that the ACC championship could have an effect on us. Maybe a slim. I saw some reports that if Clemson does win the ACC championship, then that kind of helps us. I don't know. To me, it was all about the way for South Carolina to get into the playoffs. It was a 3-team race between Alabama, us, and Ole Miss. That was it. We could talk about whether Indiana deserves to be there with a very, very weak strength of schedule. We could talk about Boise State, Arizona State, all of BYU. Yes, would wins and losses from those teams help or hurt us? Most likely. But in reality, the college playoff committee cares about the name on the front of the jersey. And they also don't want a playoff to have 5 SEC teams, because they have yet to realize that the SEC is the strongest conference with the strongest strength of schedule, and every team that comes out of the SEC could beat any other team in the country. They won't accept that. They will not accept that. So they won't accept more than the SEC champion and maybe 1 to 2 other teams. So with that being said, it was going to come down to a 3-team race between us, Bama, and Ole Miss, because we all have 3 losses. And the issue comes into, how are they going to count that? Is it a head-to-head? Well, we've lost the head-to-head to Alabama and Ole Miss. But on the same token, you can't make a decision based on a singular game. So then you have to look at the body of the work this season. Well, we just rattled off 6 straight wins, 3 of them against top 25 opponents. We technically have a win against LSU, because I will not accept that as a loss, because there was a screw job by the refs. Everybody in America knows
Sellers got
that.
knocked out too.
And Sellers got knocked out. If you were willing to make a decision about FSU last year, even though they were undefeated, and you didn't want to put them in the playoffs because they had an injured quarterback, you should make the same decision about us and LSU when our quarterback was injured. Either way, it's a 3-team playoff between us, Bama, and Ole Miss, and it's up to the College Football Playoff Committee to decide which of those 3 teams fits best to what they want in the playoffs. And right now, I think us being the hottest team with the hottest quarterback, number 16, Heisman, Sellers, that is what's going to get you your revenue. Because honestly, as much as us fans love the national championship as a way to brag, College Football Playoff Committee likes it because it's the way for them to make money. Yeah. The way for them to make money is by what team is the hottest. And they have to decide if it's the name on the front of the jersey, Alabama, or the hottest team in America with the hottest quarterback in America that the national level media is talking about, and that would be us.
Yeah, I agree. Buster, I'm listening to you talk about acceptance, and I'm picturing you like cooking up this big plate of food, serving it to the playoff committee, and they're just like, "Ew, no, I don't like it. I don't want it." Like they just won't accept it.
No, that's me smoking a rack of ribs for 12 hours. That's me making prime rib. That's me coming out with smoked oysters. That's me coming out with at least 6 or 7 different classy cocktails out of my bar, serving it to the College Football Playoff Committee, and then they're telling me that they don't drink alcohol and they're all vegetarian.
Yeah, and they want McDonald's or something. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally. No, it's very well put.
Do you have my vegan dinner prepared for me?
It definitely occurs to me that it's just getting closer and closer to March Madness, and those seedings aren't always right, but they do set up fun matchups, 8s over 9s over 8s or 5s over 12s or whatever, and then you start to find it. We don't know any of that yet. We need to see this play out a bit. So I'm with you on most of it, Buster. I'm a little less critical on some of that because it's got to play out. Did we lose games? Yes, we did. Did we do everything we could to get in? Not necessarily. Are there automatic bids with the championships? There are. The chips are falling where they fall. And look, it does seem like most of the national media, most of the country is saying that we are the hottest team to be left out. I'm kind of fine being there. I'm kind of fine. If that's where it ends up, I can accept that, and I can have a chip on my shoulder to say, you didn't let me in. I'm going to play even harder next year, and I'm going to fucking bash that door down. Excuse my language. But, you know, give me that opportunity, right?
So I agree. I agree. Go ahead, Buster. Go ahead.
Well, I look at it like this, and you bring up a great point, Mike. Think about this. If we're talking about it because the playoff committee, we're basing this on the fact that they are making a decision subjectively. If you look at basketball and going into March Madness, they use the net rankings, the NET and net rankings, right?
They also play a lot more games. They play a lot more games.
They do have a level of subjectivity, but they also use mathematical, statistical concepts of strength of schedule, quality wins, quality losses, called the net. Baseball, college baseball does the same thing. It's called the RPI. And they use that to develop their playoff setups with regional, super regionals, and then on the way to Omaha for the College World Series. You know what college football has? Nothing. They don't have any level of objective statistical measures that you can use to then make quality-based decisions on it. You know, it's okay to be subjective. You kind of need that human part to decision making, but you need to have identifiable data and evidence to kind of back up your argument. And that is like that mathematical concept that we don't have in college football that you have
but
in
that's also
basketball,
missing, right? It's the first year of the playoffs, so we've never done this before. We're getting into this fresh, never have done it, you know, virgin territory. I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't so great my first time. You know what I mean? So like, I get it, and I'm okay with it. Is it exciting? It is exciting. Is it a little disappointing when in there? For sure. Can it motivate us to get us even more excited and make Willie B even louder? To show them that we belong, to shove that door down, to will that touchdown in there like Sellers did, he's going to shove it down their throat. And if they aren't going to eat it, he's going to make them eat it. You know, I like that.
I'm going to throw a few quote unquote data points your way real quick, right? Because this is, to Buster's point, there's not like a set criteria, right? And that's, I think, what most people are upset about. And now, I came in, and I said this last week, and I came in fully aware. We talked this in the pregame show. Like, I was expecting us to be ranked 12th, right, in the ranking, and be the first team out based off of the automatic seedings of conference, and I was okay with that. We only moved up one spot to 14. Now, Clemson. All right, so make this make sense, right? Clemson lost to us. They dropped 5 spots. Okay, they went from 12 to 17. That's a little. All right, so if they're dropping people that much, maybe they're going to drop Miami a lot, right? To the point where, hey, maybe we will leapfrog them. But then I see our name come up, right? And then Ole Miss, and then Miami's at 12, and then Bam is at 11. And I was like, okay, that seems a bit odd if you're going to put Miami, like, to me, but to Buster's point, it was a 3-way tie between those 3. And I'm okay the way that they put Alabama and Ole Miss ahead of us just because it was head. I get it. That's head to head. Okay, that's what you want to do. But for some reason, Miami slips in there, and you're like, okay, so that to me, like, you either put them ahead of those 3 teams or behind those 3 teams. But whatever, right? I'm nitpicking. Yeah. Let's go to the final point here. Ohio State only drops 4 spots for losing to an unranked Michigan. Now, Miami drops 6, Clemson drops 5, Ohio State drops 4, and guess what Ohio State gets? A home game against Tennessee. It's kind of ironic how that works out, huh? Now I don't want to play contrarian. I don't want to play conspiracy theorist here. I could. But in what world does this make sense? Yeah, how does it make sense that Ohio's, like, Clemson loses to a top 15 team, they drop 5, Miami loses to a top 22, I think they finished 23rd in the ranking, they drop 6, and Ohio State loses to an unranked Michigan at home and drops 4.
The only thing that's going to give me solace there, Sam, is that Ohio State plays Tennessee and maybe they just get waxed. And
I hope so, but the fact that it's a home game, that's a huge advantage for Ohio State in revenue. It's a huge advantage for the Big Ten in revenue. It's a kind of a disadvantage for Tennessee and the SEC. Like, I don't want to play like contrarian or conspiracy theorists here. So let me ask you guys another question. What happens if Clemson beats the absolute living shit out of SMU? Does SMU go out, or does SMU and Clemson both go in and then Alabama's out? What happens there?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think that that the championship game is going to completely sway them the other way. I think the only way that can happen is if Clemson just waxes that Methodist ass. They just put it to them so hard that there's no denying that Clemson is much better than them, and we just beat them the week before. So I don't think they'll be able to deny that. But do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, SMU's had some tight games, and I mentioned some of those games. I believe it was BC I was talking about a few weeks ago that really kept SMU close. And they did, shout out BC, they did that to a few teams this year. And not always playing the best ball up there, but one of the most northern stadiums outdoors, let alone, other than Syracuse, obviously is a little further north, but that's indoors. I don't know. I really don't know. And again, being the first year, we don't have the sort of play-by-play from previous years to know what that's going to mean. I mean, we will know depending on what happens, right? This kind of fun in the way that we do have to let it play out. And I would never be rooting for Clemson, but when you beat them, yeah, you want to root for them, right? You root for any team that you beat because it's going to help.
Makes you look better. Makes you look better.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So, yeah.
I'll definitely gives me a reason to watch that game, which I think is the point in all of this. They're trying to get more eyeballs on it. We're all talking about it. We're debating it. We weren't doing this last year. College football playoff would be set and done, and we were never in that top 6. So that ain't going to happen. Bigger is turning out to be better. Is a little more confusing. Yeah. But I'm okay to go for the ride. As long as the whole carnival isn't like fakaked, like I'm not getting on a ride that I know is going to fall apart. I just know it's not perfect. I might catch a meatball in the face while I'm on the ride. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. Let's just not crash and have this be terrible, because to your point, Sam, if Ohio State goes there with Tennessee and Tennessee waxes that ass, what does that say? What if they mismatch all of this and these are all blowouts? That's not good. They don't want that, I don't think.
Well, you know me, I just like to be a hater. That being said, I'm not bitter that we're not in. I honestly didn't think we were going to be selected just because of everything that Buster says, right? Yeah, it's correct. They want the money, they want the brand recognition. Yeah. When it comes down to it, this was an incredible ride of a season, and I am super happy that we are in the national spotlight. Not only just the national spotlight, but the way the team responded, the way Shane Beamer got the troops together, the way the seniors got together, the captains on the team played, the sellout. They sold out every single game this season. I mean, I don't want to change the subject or whatever, but no. I'm so excited for the future of this program. I really am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Definitely. To me, I will never, ever consider this season, fans should not consider this a failure by any means.
No, absolutely not.
You would be stupid. You could definitely be upset about the playoff decisions, and we can debate that. That's probably what they wanted. I think maybe the committee wanted us to be able to have these kind of debates because we get to talk about it more, which is going to lead to viewership, it's going to lead to revenue, blah, blah, blah. The fact is, we came into a season where most people, I think Vegas included, had us at, I think Vegas had us at 5.5 or 4.5 wins.
4.5 wins, yeah.
4.5 wins. And we got to 9 with a chance to make it 10, depending on,
through a gauntlet of a season. I mean,
through a gauntlet.
We all saw that schedule.
People forget that we, the month of October, we faced back to back to back.
Yeah.
LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, or Alabama was after Ole Miss, but I mean, that's 3 teams that were in the top 25 that we went back to back to back.
Yeah.
And then we rattled off 6 straight wins. We finished 9-3 with a gauntlet of a schedule, with most people not thinking we were going to win more than 5 games. We have found a quarterback that is not only the future, but can be legacy defining. So not just the future in the next 3 or 4 years, but he's going to be talked about for the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years.
He may go down as one of the better that we've seen live.
Yeah.
We don't know that yet. We're not going to anoint that yet.
The way we talk about Connor Shaw right now, it's possible, students right now will be talking about LaNorris. That's how it comes down to, and that's
what I'm saying, cool. Sam, is for me, at some point, Sellers is just going to be number 1. At some point, probably in the next year,
I love it.
I'm going to have to say he's the best Gamecock quarterback I've ever seen.
Yeah, do not lose the sight of the forest for the trees in the sense of what we've been able to accomplish. And this is only, to me, the building blocks of what we can accomplish. Not only was this an excellent and successful season, This is a season where this renewed my faith in being a proud alum and Gamecock fan. It's something that I can look forward to. It got to the point where my wife, the non-football person, is already talking about wanting to get season tickets for next year and talking about tailgating and already planning menus for tailgates. Like shout out to Bojangles, who you're going to be the main part of my tailgate next year because
I mean, guys,
sir.
the only other place I've seen this in football lately is what Taylor Swift is doing for the NFL. You know what I mean? We're talking about bringing in new fans, casual fans who might not give a F, and they're here and they're loving what they're seeing. You know, you got to believe that the league loves that. The SEC loves that. Obviously, us as Carolina fans love that. And it's each prong of attack, right? It's our coach. It's our leader in LaNorris. It's the players that are following him and playing as hard. It's the players that will come to play with him, recruiting wise, portal wise. So just, you know, all the way around, guys, a really entertaining season, really successful season, a lot to build on in the next year. We're very excited about all of it. But we're not going anywhere.
I've already contacted the fundraising departments and gave them Buster's credit card information. Say, hey, here's a blank check, man. Like this guy's on board. Let's go.
Yeah, and then my bank would call me and be like, is this charge fraudulent? I'm like, is it to the Gamecocks? Then no, it's definitely not fraudulent. I've already made plans to see you guys when you come down for a game or two next year. Like it's one of those things. And then here's the secret. What made Clemson so successful under Dabo was as soon as they got a level of national attention, the recruits started rolling in, and you got your guys, Deshaun Watsons and your Trevor Lawrences and your Dexter Lawrences and Christian Wilkerson started coming in because there was a national level identity of Clemson football. No one cares about that ugly ass orange anymore. What they're caring about now is the garnet and black, the national level attention that we're getting, and what LaNorris is bringing from a national level. These recruits are going to start flowing in, and these are going to be high level recruits. This program is going up, and the trajectory that I see right now, we will not have to be talking about the woulda, coulda, shoulda of making playoffs in the near future. It's going to be like, man, that was easy. We're in the playoffs. No big deal.
Yeah, I think we got some pretty sick episodes ahead of us, guys.
Indeed.
But to that end, you know, I think we've covered the Clemson game. I think we've covered our season, obviously a successful one, and we're excited. A big reason why we've gotten into this show. So I think we're about ready to close it out. Any other? Oh, I know what we got to do. Quick preview for this SEC championship. Who you guys got? Georgia or Texas? Who's winning the SEC this year?
That's a tough one. Georgia, Carson Beck has not looked like the quarterback that they all thought he was going to be, and I don't see Georgia having the same run game that they used to have.
There's no Brock Powers.
I've seen a vulnerability in Texas. Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, very good quarterbacks. Shout out to them for being good quarterbacks. Are they great? I don't know. That's a toss-up. I would say I'm going to go with Georgia to finish out as SEC champs.
Make no mistake, this is going to be a defensive battle. I mean, just for the exact same points that Buster brought up. Texas is favored by 2.5 points. Games in the Georgia Dome, right? It's in Atlanta. I mean, that's going to be a home game. You look for the crowd. Look for the crowd and look for a couple special teams plays by Georgia. Look for the crowd to be a factor and not in the Texas offense, so that they're going to look a little out of rhythm. I fully expect Georgia to win this game. I'm going to say 17-13.
Oh, nice. I'm going to go the other way. I did watch a lot of that Georgia Tech. I think 8 overtimes takes a lot out of you. Obviously, if Georgia loses that game, a whole nother thing happens, but I think 8 overtimes is a lot. I think Texas did not play that much football, and I'm gonna go with Texas the other way, something like 17-13 Texas. I think, and I think they are able to go in there, and I think Georgia is not quite the team that we've seen the last few years for a lot of the reasons that Buster said. I would not want Carson Beck. I would not want to be rolling into this game with Carson Beck.
Well, one thing I forgot to mention there. So sorry, Mike. Georgia's battle testing too. They played a lot of good teams. Texas has not. So
Yeah.
I think
it's one thing to be in the
we're gonna see
SEC. It's one thing to get scheduled, a full-on SEC schedule. I hear you
Yep.
there. Well, guys, that's gonna, SEC championship means that we're almost on the end of the ride. But we will have some episodes coming up. We will have our playoff preview once things sort out this weekend. Most likely a bowl preview for Carolina. I think names like ReliaQuest have started coming up, so we'll think more about that. We'll know a lot more about that at the end of this weekend. If by chance Clemson overtakes SMU, maybe we have more to talk about. We teased it a little bit earlier, but we will talk a little bit about that portal, some of the players that we keep, some of the players that we lose and gain, and we will have some more episodes coming up for you before the holiday here. So aside from that, make sure to stay with us, like, subscribe, follow us on social media so you can get everything we're doing here. We probably will come with some clips of things too, and who knows, maybe even a little highlight show at some point with some of our ups and downs. And stay with us because we will have more for you in the future weeks for everything Gamecock. Buster, Sam, thank you again for a great episode, and one last time, Alumni
Game!
Cox!
Cox.
Here we go.
Well done, boys.